G'day, my name's Suits. Welcome to ARMAEdit. In this video I'm going to cover the entity modules. It's a group of 4 modules that's used to spawn units and control them once they're spawned. The demo map of this mission can be found in the description of this video. Just ensure you have CBA and AE mods running. So I've placed, if you watch the previous video, I've placed the AE main module. Just ensure that it's on and debugging's off for now, and that's the default. So if you just place the module, that'll be the default settings. So the first module we want to have a look at in this one is the core of ARMAEdit. It's the Zone module. The Zone module is what controls when things spawn or when things happen, and it's all based off the player's position, not AI. It doesn't work for AI, it's purely just players. So when the player gets within the radius that you set here, it'll activate, and then depending on what's linked to the Zone module is what will happen, whether it spawns guys, displays message, or does one of the other features of ARMAEdit. You can turn zones off at the start. I'm going to cover this more in a later video to do with disabling zones or suspending zones, so I'm just going to leave that. Just ensure that's enabled so the zone's ready to be activated. Now this is the side of the player who's going to activate the zone. So I'm going to leave it to west because I'm a west unit on the map and I want to be able to activate the zone. Now the unit type, at the moment I'm just a ground unit, so I'm going to leave it to all units. Here you can really define your zones and who activates them. You want to spawn some enemy units when the player is on the ground running around, then you can choose all ground units. So whether they're in a vehicle or they're running around on the ground, it'll activate. However, if they fly over in a helicopter on their way to do something else, or a jet flies over, it won't activate. And the same in reverse. You can set it for plane units only. So say you could set down a whole bunch of anti-aircraft. If the player drives through the area, they're not there. If a jet happens to fly over, AA spawns, and you can see how it's sort of got its uses. And there's plenty of combinations there to whatever you want to set it to. Now debug's on by default, but you can see there in the description, debug won't work unless global debug's on in the AE main module, so you're fine to leave that on. I've got it in each module, so later on if you're trying to find a problem, you can actually eliminate modules by turning them off, and you can actually physically turn the module off as well. When you place any module, they want to group to the closest modules, and just use the group function here, and you can select it up there or F2 and just drag off so it's ungrouped. All the ARMAEdit modules will link with the linking tool, as you'll see in a sec. So I've got my zone set up. It's not really going to do anything at the moment. It will activate, but hasn't got anything linked to it to do anything. So we want to throw down another module. So I want to spawn some guys. So it actually takes 2 things to spawn guys. You need an entity module. So the entity module controls the settings for the units when they spawn, and where they spawn, and what they do after they spawn. So you can see here their side. I'm going to set them to west so they don't shoot me in the face. I can put a random radius on. I'll put that to, I don't know, 10, something small, so they stay around the hangar. And I'll put this to 20 so they patrol around the hangar. The direction, you can set a direction here. It doesn't really work for units because they just spawn in and move to wherever they want. It works well for vehicles and objects and stuff like that. -1 will set it to random 360, like you can see there in the description. Behavior, combat mode, speed and formation. It's the same as a normal waypoint. You know, you can set all those settings there to whatever you want. Waypoint wait time is the time that they'll stop between each waypoint that they have. So if you've got them set to patrol, they're going to generate a whole bunch of random waypoints in the area that you've given them to patrol. This is the time that they'll stop in between each waypoint. So I just wanted to keep walking, so I'm going to set it to 0. Occupy nearest building will look for a building with occupiable positions and move them into it. Once they're moved into the building, they'll then patrol that building. If you set a patrol radius larger than the building, they'll actually patrol around the building and inside it, and maybe even other buildings around, so just be aware of that if you want them to stay in one building. And then this is the task I want them to perform when they spawn. So I can put defend, they'll defend the area they spawn in. You can attack the position. Position is, they'll just spawn in a set position. It's used for placing people in specifically where you want them. So I'm going to set a patrol, so they'll do a random patrol around the hangar that they're at. Now these last 3 options here, the init, the custom code and the manual positioning, I'm going to leave that for another video. It's a bit more involved. You shouldn't need this unless you want to do some extra stuff. Okay, so ungroup that. So that's the entities, they're going to spawn there. I need to tell the entities module what entities I want to spawn. So this is where we create a template of units. So there's no real settings other than debug and turning it off and on for the template. So just throw that down, ungroup it. Now all you do is get your normal units like you would in the editor, and I'll place down some blue for fire team, and I'll link it to this template. What this template module does is it creates a template of these units here, so I can use this on multiple entity modules if I want to spawn these same guys. I want this template to spawn here, and I want this entity to be created once this zone is activated. One thing with the zone module I didn't mention, you can't really see where your radius is, but there's a little built-in feature for random placement radius which has a nice little dotted line. So if I set I'm going to set this to 20, and the placement radius, if I set that to 20, it'll just show me where the dotted line is, so you can see I'm just outside it. And what the placement radius does though, however, if the zone module will actually spawn in a random spot in there, and then the 20 meter radius will be off that module wherever it spawns. So if it spawns over here, 20 meter radius is going to be here. So use this to see your radius, but then make sure you turn it off if you're trying to get an exact position for the zone. You can use it to randomize it up a bit if you want. That's pretty much the basics for setting up the spawn entities. So now when I activate this zone, these guys here should spawn here and patrol this building. So let's have a look. So I'm outside the zone here now. You can, if I stay out here, nothing will happen. You can see there's no guys over there in the field where I placed them because they've been saved to the template. And then activate the zone, they spawn in, and they start patrolling the hangar. I'll just speed them up so you can see. So they're just patrolling randomly around that hangar now. Let's just say I want to create another entity point. I can copy this one if I want to use the same settings, and I want to use these same guys and I want them to patrol this hangar. So I can just link this entity module to this template, and I want it to activate off this zone as well. Now I should have two 4-man groups, one spawn there, and they patrol each of their hangars. So activate the module, they spawn in, and they start patrolling. Just some of the other things you can do with the templates. Let's create another template. I mean, we can put this anywhere, it doesn't matter where the location of this is. I'll put another group of 4 there, but I want them to spawn in a vehicle. I just need to use an empty vehicle. Let's go Hunter, HMG. And I'll just link the group and the vehicle to the template. I'll get them to spawn here behind me on the runway. And the same zone. So they'll spawn, and then they'll conduct we'll make this one a little bit bigger, make it 100. See what 100 looks like. So they'll just drive around patrolling that random area. That looks good. That looks good. There's the guys in the vehicle. The guys all in the hangars. And they're patrolling around. The last thing you can do with a template module is you can attach guys with waypoints. So if I have, let's say I wanted a group to spawn and patrol this road here. So I'll do a new template. You need to do a new template every time the structure of the units change. If I link these guys to this template, so I just want them to go up and down this road. And I'll get them to spawn, let's put them halfway. And the same zone. These guys here to spawn at this entity module when this zone activates, and I'll automatically pick up those waypoints once they spawn in. I'll just activate the zone. I'll run over here. And there's those guys there going to their first waypoint up there, and you'll see I'll get to the end, turn around, come back. The last entities module is just a separate task module. Say I want this group here in the vehicle, I want them to spawn in over here, and then I want them to attack a hangar over here. So let's go. So we give them a new task with the task module. We can set the radius of that task, so we could get them to spawn over there, move over and patrol this hangar, but I'm going to set it to attack. The radius in attack is sort of just like a guide where they'll seek and destroy for enemies. So if I just link that task to that entity, it'll now override the task that's given on that entity module, which was patrol. So I won't change it, you'll see they'll now move to attack. So basically what the attack is telling them to do is move over to there and search for enemies. So they're going in there to look for enemies. And on defend as well, you could send them over there to defend that, and if there's any static weapons there, they'll mount them. That pretty much covers the basic entities modules, so you can spawn guys in and do stuff. Obviously with the zone modules you want to try and set your radiuses so they spawn with a bit of time to get organised before the player gets there. If you have any questions or issues, visit ARMAEdit.com and post on our forums there or read the documentation.